The last few days have seen a flurry of spoilers, rumors, and if we believe toy leaks, confirmed news for WandaVision. I wanted to break down a few of the big rumors that are going around. I'm Jason O'Phil, and this is my channel. I do want to give a shout out to Heavy Spoilers, who put up an excellent video with their thoughts on director Tyler Hayward, so kudos for their deep dive. Okay, so most of the stuff floating around on the World Wide Web and Reddit, as well as Twitter, if you want to do that big of a deep dive, has listed we will have 3 villains in this show.
That's it. 3. 1, 2, 3.
Mephisto, Nightmare, and Grim Reaper. Now, the common belief, and pointed out by Heavy Spoilers, is that director Tyler Hayward of S.W.O.R.D. is really Mephisto. What do we know about Mephisto according to Marvel comic lore? In the comics, he acted as a servant to Thanos during the War of the Gems, seeking to obtain the Infinity Stones for his own use. He also actually has a few stories with other characters that could be the groundwork and could tie in to quite a few Marvel Phase 4 films that we know about. Now, let's discuss how he could fit into the overall story in WandaVision. In the comics, he is looking to gather 5 fragments of his soul that are scattered because of an encounter with Franklin Richards. Yes, Reed Richards and Sue Storm's child. Now, we really can't go that route because we haven't introduced any of those characters, so we could use the baseline of the story and incorporate it. In the comic, Wanda uses magic to conceive her children, and when she does, she actually pulls forth 2 of those fragments, which are then born as her twins, Thomas and William. It does seem that the show could just start them being Billy, aka Future Wiccan, and Tommy, aka Future Speedy, right off, and maybe skip over how those 2 characters are the reincarnation of her previous children. Though I am betting that we're a couple years off before we even get to Young Avengers, so there are a couple routes that they could take. And honestly, if we're gonna go from this show to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we could theoretically just go with Mephisto absorbing the twins into himself, thereby destroying that part of Wanda's created reality and driving her insane. What we do to this character in the comics and the films, it just sucks. Which would lead her into being the big bad in the before mentioned Doctor Strange 2. And finally, if Mephisto is Phase 4's, to use a Joss Whedonism, little bad, which I suspect he might be one of a few little bad villains that we're going to get, we do have his arc with Peter Parker and MJ. Now, in the comics, he actually bargains with Peter Parker to save Aunt May's life. His bargaining chip is, I am going to erase the reality where both you and MJ have met, fallen in love, and got married. I don't see that storyline happening, mainly because they're children in the MCU right now, and that would just be weird. I could see Mephisto striking a deal with Peter to erase his secret identity, even though in the comics that's the deal he strikes with MJ. And since we know Doctor Strange is in Spider-Man 3, and the Time Stone doesn't really exist anymore, Peter and MJ might be really just out of options and need to make a deal with the devil. Also, if he is in that film, that does move forward the fallout of whatever we're going to have happen in WandaVision, so that is also another strong possibility. In regards to foes of his, we also have Thor. What could a character like Mephisto dangle in front of Thor that would matter greatly to him? Perhaps the survival of the woman he loves, Jane Foster? I still very much stand by what I said in my last video, that the Phase 4 big bad of this MCU will be Galactus. When you start setting up all the power cosmic and what you can achieve with it, you have one goal, especially if we really are a couple years away from getting Phoenix. Now let's get into Nightmare. The rumor that is going around is Agnes, aka Agatha Harkness, has been working for Mephisto. She has already made her own deal with the devil, one I can't fully figure out yet. All I have seen and read in my deep dive of the internet, which is always a very dangerous thing to do, is she is there to befriend Wanda and eventually steal the children and give them to Mephisto. In the end, she grows close to Wanda and the family and decides to not go through with her deal, which causes her to be possessed by Nightmare, who will then harness Wanda and her powers to break open the multiverse, setting in stage the rest of Phase 4, especially in regards to our untitled Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. Now, a small fun fact about Nightmare. He, or she, if the MCU decides to go that way, is the ruler of the dream dimension. In the comics, there was a time when he accessed the minds of people through the idea of the American dream. So these people who were deeply patriotic and had gained success through hard work, etc., 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 go out and commit violent rampages under his control. It took Captain America, Sharon Carter, and S.H.I.E.L.D. to stop him. Is it possible, considering the rise of such real-world events throughout the globe in the last few years, that Marvel could mine that story in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, replacing Cap with someone like Falcon, having Nightmare work with Zemo perhaps? Those could be interesting places to take this series, before sending Nightmare possibly into Doctor Strange 2. On a side note, I now believe Dottie is Clea, since there was a time in the comics that Doctor Strange went to save her from Nightmare. And for those in the comic know, she is the niece of Dormammu and a powerful sorceress herself. Also in the comics, she is Mrs. Stephen Strange. Actually, right now she's Mrs. X Stephen Strange, but that's neither here nor there. Finally, let's touch on Grim Reaper, aka Eric Williams. I remember that his mother's name is Martha.
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name.
What is it with comic book characters and their mothers being named Martha? Ugh. Anyway, let's get back to the theory. So the theory is that the Grim Reaper is really Agnes's husband, Ralph, who we haven't seen and who she has said looks good in the dark. So people were like, well, that must be Mephisto, but I'm kind of going, Grim Reaper. The reason I kind of go with it being Ralph is director Tyler Hayward has never entered Westview at all. And clearly Ralph is a member of the community. And we have seen hints in the opening credits that the Grim Reaper is around. The inclusion of this character also brings someone like his brother Simon, aka Wonder Man, into the MCU. In the comics, Grim Reaper started a group called the Lethal Legion that confronted the Avengers. They were defeated because the Grim Reaper couldn't defeat, you guessed it, Vision. Rumor has it that Vision will battle Grim Reaper in the finale of the show. Getting into the backstory of Vision, the Grim Reaper, is a video unto itself that deals with both those characters, as well as Wonder Man and the Space Phantom. But hearing the rumor that Vision will do battle with this particular villain, possibly, does remove the idea that he'll battle Wanda in the end of the show. We've seen all these clips of Vision battling somebody, and people have assumed now that it's Wanda. I'm going to guess that it is the Grim Reaper that he is battling. Another little bad for this season. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, there's always toy spoilers. And nobody spoils toys more for all of us than Funko Pops, which I clearly love. Now, an image leaked this week that showed a 2-pack of Bobby and Tommy Maximoff for Halloween and a new Monica Rambeau where she appears to be wearing a sword suit, which leads into these already released images. Funko has a tendency to spoil Marvel and other IP properties. In fact, after Funko did a spoiler for Giant Man in Civil War and Hulk in Hulkbuster in Avengers Infinity War in a scene that was storyboarded but never shot, Disney basically put an edict out on them, and you first saw it with Avengers Endgame. You can release 2 lines. The first line is spoiler-free. The next line after the movie comes out is spoiler-centric. That's why for Endgame, the very first line they released was the entire team in the time travel suits. And then after the film came out, you saw all the other spoiler pops that were going to be coming. Essentially, they've done the same thing with Wandavision. You can release Wanda and Vision in these looks we've already given away in the trailers. But you better not be releasing anything else that gives away this show. All right, everybody, I'm Jason O'Phil. If you're coming here and taking part in this community of fans from all quadrants, that makes you pretty awesome. So thank you. And I'll see you guys next time.